Welcome to STORIQ, where every story finds its voice. Immerse yourself in unforgettable audiobooks, from chilling horror and gripping mysteries to heartwarming romance and timeless classics. Put on your headphones, press play, and let the story begin. The House Beyond Blackwater Lake, a horror novel, by Adrian Vale. Some houses keep memories. This one collects people. When investigative journalist Elias Carter arrives in a forgotten Scottish village to uncover the truth behind a family that vanished without a trace, he expects abandoned rooms, dusty records, and old lies. Instead, he finds a mansion that appears where it should not, remembers names no stranger could know, and leaves every visitor carrying a different version of the past. The villagers refuse to go near Blackwater Lake after sunset. They insist that anyone who enters the house returns changed, if they return at all. As Elias pieces together a mystery buried for decades, he discovers that the greatest danger is not what waits inside the house, but what it quietly takes from those who cross its threshold. Some doors should never be opened. Some places should never be remembered. Rain had been falling across the Scottish Highlands since dawn, turning the narrow roads into ribbons of silver beneath a sky that never seemed to brighten. The hills stood like ancient guardians, wrapped in drifting mist, while lonely pines stretched toward the clouds with branches bent by decades of relentless wind. Elias Carter drove in silence. His assignment had sounded simple enough. A forgotten village, an abandoned manor, an entire family that had disappeared 36 years earlier without leaving behind a single explanation. The official investigation had ended in failure, and over time the story had faded into little more than local folklore. That was precisely why Elias had accepted it. He had spent 10 years exposing myths that concealed uncomfortable truths. Every legend, he believed, was born from something real. Fear merely changed the details. The navigation signal disappeared nearly 20 miles before he reached the village. His phone displayed a blank map. No service, no connection, only the steady rhythm of rain striking the windshield. At last, a weathered wooden sign emerged from the fog. Blackwater. The paint had almost vanished beneath years of storms. The village consisted of fewer than 20 stone cottages gathered around a narrow square. Their windows glowed faintly despite the early afternoon, yet the streets remained empty. Even the usual sounds of rural life were absent. No children, no barking dogs, no voices carried by the wind, only rain. Elias parked beside an aging inn whose faded sign read "The Stag and Lantern." The door creaked as he stepped inside. Warm air greeted him, carrying the scent of burning peat and old timber. 5 villagers sat around the fireplace. Every conversation stopped. 5 pairs of eyes settled on the stranger. No one smiled. A gray-haired woman behind the counter finally spoke. "You're a long way from home." "I'm looking into the Blackwater Manor case," Elias replied. "I was told someone here might remember what happened." The silence grew heavier. One elderly man slowly placed his cup onto the table. "You should leave before nightfall." Elias offered a polite smile. "I've heard warnings like that before. This isn't one of them." The old man's expression remained completely still. "It isn't the dead you should fear." Elias waited. The man said nothing more. Instead, he stood, pulled on his coat, and walked into the rain without looking back. The remaining villagers lowered their eyes as though the conversation had never happened. Only the innkeeper remained. She slid a brass key across the counter. "Room 6. I didn't ask for a room." "You will." There was no warmth in her voice. No welcome. Only certainty. After leaving his luggage upstairs, Elias unfolded the documents he had brought from Edinburgh. Old newspaper clippings, police reports, family photographs. The final picture caught his attention. Blackwater Manor stood beside a dark lake beneath a cloudless sky. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a single sentence in faded ink. "The front door is open, do not enter." There was no signature, no date, just those 8 words. Elias slipped the photograph into his jacket and walked to the window. Beyond the village, hidden between layers of mist, he caught the outline of a distant hill. For only a heartbeat, another shape appeared above the trees. House. Large. Silent. Watching. He blinked. The hill was empty again. Yet, somewhere beyond the rain, a door had slowly opened. Morning arrived without sunlight. A thick blanket of cloud hung over Blackwater, muting every color until the village looked as though it had been painted in shades of ash. Elias Carter left the inn shortly after breakfast, carrying his notebook, camera, and the faded photograph that had kept him awake for most of the night. The streets were strangely quiet again. A delivery truck stood outside a cottage, its engine running, but the driver was nowhere to be seen. Curtains moved behind windows, yet no faces appeared. It felt as though the village had learned to observe strangers without ever being seen. At the edge of the square stood the oldest building in Blackwater, a tiny church with cracked stone walls and a bell that no longer rang. Beside it, an elderly groundskeeper knelt among weathered gravestones, pulling weeds from the damp earth. Elias approached him. "Excuse me, I'm trying to find Blackwater Manor." The old man continued working without looking up. "There isn't a road to the manor. The map shows one. The map is older than the truth." Only then did the groundskeeper rise. His pale blue eyes studied Elias for a long moment. "If you still wish to go, follow the northern trail until the forest becomes silent." "The forest becomes silent. You'll know when it happens." Before Elias could ask another question, the man returned to his work as though the conversation had ended. The northern trail began behind the church. At first, it was little more than a muddy path winding between towering pine trees. Birds called from the branches overhead, and the wind carried the scent of wet moss and pine resin. After nearly an hour of walking, the sounds slowly disappeared. One bird stopped singing, then another. The wind faded until even the trees seemed unwilling to move. The silence settled so completely that Elias could hear nothing but his own breathing. He remembered the groundskeeper's words. "You'll know when it happens." A few steps later, he noticed something impossible. There were no animal tracks, not a single footprint, no broken branches. The forest floor looked untouched, as if nothing living had crossed it for years. Then he saw the signpost. It leaned slightly to one side, half covered with moss. Only one word remained visible: Manor. An arrow pointed deeper into the woods. Elias raised his camera. The shutter clicked. When he lowered it, the signpost was gone. He frowned. He searched the trees around him. Nothing. Only empty forest. His camera screen displayed the photograph clearly. The sign had existed, yet now there was no trace of it. A cold unease settled over him. The path narrowed until it reached the edge of Blackwater Lake. The water stretched across the valley like polished black glass. There were no ripples. No birds skimmed its surface. Even the rain seemed reluctant to fall upon it. Across the lake stood Blackwater Manor. It was larger than Elias had imagined. Dark stone walls rose above the shoreline, crowned by steep slate roofs and narrow chimneys. Tall windows reflected the gray sky, giving the unsettling impression that the house possessed dozens of watchful eyes. Despite decades of abandonment, the building showed remarkably little decay. It looked maintained, not restored, simply untouched by time. Elias lifted the old photograph beside the real view. Every detail matched perfectly, except one. In the photograph, an ancient oak tree stood beside the front gate. Now the tree was missing. Only a wide circular scar remained in the earth, as though something enormous had once been rooted there. As Elias studied the empty ground, movement caught his attention. Someone was standing in an upstairs window. Tall figure, perfectly still. Its face remained hidden behind the reflection of the clouds. Elias instinctively waved. The figure did not move. He reached for his camera once more. The instant he pressed the shutter, the window was empty. His heartbeat quickened. Perhaps it had been nothing more than shifting light. Perhaps. Yet a moment later he noticed something that made every rational explanation collapse. Fresh footprints had appeared in the mud behind him. They were not his. They began only a few feet away and ended exactly where he was standing. Elias remained frozen, his eyes fixed on the footprints. There were 12 of them, deep impressions in the wet earth, each one perfectly defined. They began a few feet behind him and ended at the exact spot where he stood. There were no returning prints, no signs of anyone walking away, and no disturbance in the mud beyond the final step. It was as if someone had walked toward him and simply ceased to exist. He crouched beside the nearest print. The sole pattern was old-fashioned, unlike any modern hiking boot. A thin crack ran across the heel, creating a distinctive mark that repeated in every footprint. Elias photographed them from several angles. When he checked the images, every footprint had disappeared. The photograph showed only smooth, rain-soaked mud. He lowered the camera slowly. The prints were still there. His camera simply refused to record them. A cold certainty settled over him. Whatever surrounded Blackwater Manor obeyed rules that had nothing to do with logic. The only route to the house was an old stone bridge stretching across the narrow end of the lake. Its railings had collapsed long ago, leaving only uneven slabs of rock suspended above the black water. Each step echoed with the scrape of damp leather against ancient stone. Halfway across, Elias glanced into the lake. His reflection stared back. Then it smiled. Elias hadn't. He stumbled backward, his pulse hammering against his ribs. When he looked again, the surface was perfectly still, showing nothing but a weary journalist beneath a gray sky. He continued walking without looking down again. The front gate stood open. Rust covered its iron bars, yet the hinges looked strangely clean, as though they had been used only moments earlier. Elias stopped. He remembered the warning written behind the old photograph. The front door is open, do not enter. The gate, not the house. Different words, different meaning. He pushed the gate gently. It swung inward without making a sound. Beyond it lay an overgrown garden where dead roses clung to twisted vines. A cracked fountain stood in the center, its basin filled with dark rainwater and scattered leaves. Blackwater Manor towered above everything. Its stone walls bore no ivy, no broken windows, no signs of abandonment. It waited with the patience of something that had never needed to hurry. The front door was closed. Elias climbed the worn stone steps and rested a hand against the heavy oak. The wood felt unexpectedly warm. He knocked. Nothing. He waited another minute before trying the brass handle. The latch clicked. The door opened inward. A faint smell of old paper, polished wood, and extinguished fireplaces drifted into the afternoon air. Dust floated through long beams of pale light. The entrance hall stretched farther than the building had appeared from outside. Portraits lined the walls. Every face had been scratched away. Only empty outlines remained. Elias stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Not with force, not dramatically, just enough to remind him that the outside world was now separated by a thick wall of oak. The silence inside the manor felt different from the silence outside. Carried weight. Every floorboard seemed to absorb sound instead of producing it. He entered what had once been a grand library. Hundreds of books still filled the shelves. A fireplace dominated the far wall. Beside it stood a small wooden desk. Upon the desk rested a thick leather-bound register. Its cover bore a single title, Visitors. Elias opened it carefully. The first pages dated back nearly a century. Names filled each line in neat handwriting. Tourists, surveyors, historians, police officers, local officials. The entries stopped 36 years ago, the same year the Ashcroft family disappeared. Then came one final page. Only one name had been written there, Elias Carter. Today's date followed beside it. The ink was still wet. His breath caught. He had never seen this book before. He had never written his name. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he touched the fresh ink with one finger. Smeared. Someone had written it only moments earlier. A quiet sound came from the upper floor. Not footsteps, not a voice. The slow, deliberate turning of a doorknob. Then another, and another, as though every closed room in Blackwater Manor was beginning to unlock itself. The sound spread through the manor one door at a time. A metal latch turned somewhere above him. Then another. A third followed, slow and deliberate, until the entire house seemed to awaken in measured intervals. Each click arrived with perfect patience, as though something unseen was making its way from room to room. Elias stood motionless in the library. His instincts urged him to leave immediately. His profession demanded the opposite. He switched on the flashlight clipped to his backpack. The beam swept across the shelves, revealing hundreds of leather-bound volumes untouched by moisture or decay. Every book appeared carefully arranged, their spines free from mold despite decades of abandonment. Nothing inside Blackwater Manor behaved as an abandoned house should. He climbed the grand staircase. The oak steps groaned beneath his weight, but the sound seemed strangely distant, swallowed before it could travel through the halls. The first floor stretched into a long corridor lined with identical doors. Some stood slightly open, others remained firmly shut. Portraits covered the walls here as well, but unlike those downstairs, their faces had not been scratched away. They had simply faded. The clothing remained. The furniture remained. The landscapes behind them remained. Only the people had vanished, leaving pale silhouettes where their faces should have been. Elias photographed each painting. He no longer trusted what his camera would capture, but he documented everything anyway. Halfway down the corridor, he noticed one door standing wide open. Unlike the rest of the manor, the room beyond looked perfectly clean. No dust, no cobwebs, no signs of neglect. A neatly made bed stood beside a large window overlooking Blackwater Lake. Fresh flowers rested inside a crystal vase. Their white petals looked as though they had been picked that morning. Elias approached them cautiously. They carried no scent. He reached out and touched one. The petals dissolved into fine gray ash that drifted silently onto the wooden floor. Within seconds, every flower crumbled the same way. The vase remained. Only ash surrounded it now. A shiver crept down his spine. Someone or something had wanted the room to appear lived in, only until it was disturbed. Against the opposite wall stood a writing desk. One drawer was slightly open. Inside lay a leather journal. Its cover bore a name embossed in fading gold letters. Margaret Ashcroft. Elias recognized it immediately. Margaret Ashcroft had been the mother of the family that vanished 36 years earlier. He opened the journal. Most of the pages contained ordinary entries about village life, gardening, and evenings spent beside the lake. Then the handwriting changed. The letters became hurried, uneven, almost desperate. Edward says the house is changing again. Yesterday the dining room had 3 windows. Today there are 4. No one else seems to notice. Elias turned another page. Thomas insists he heard someone walking in the attic. There is no attic. Another page. I counted 5 bedrooms before breakfast. Tonight there are 6. His heartbeat quickened. The next entry had been written with such force that the pen had nearly torn through the paper. The house grows when someone remembers it. Elias stared at the sentence. Outside, clouds gathered over Blackwater Lake, dimming the afternoon until the room fell into a cold gray twilight. He continued reading. The final completed entry was dated 1 day before the Ashcroft family disappeared. If anyone finds this journal, do not spend the night here. It waits until darkness. The remaining pages were blank, or so they seemed. As Elias closed the journal, faint lines slowly appeared across the last page. Fresh ink surfaced from empty paper, forming words one letter at a time. He watched, unable to move. The sentence completed itself before his eyes. "You are already late." A loud thud shook the floor above him. Something heavy had fallen, or someone had taken their first step. The sound from above did not come again. It lingered in Elias Carter's mind, however, heavy enough to drown every reasonable explanation. He closed Margaret Ashcroft's journal and slipped it carefully into his satchel. If the entries were genuine, they were the first real evidence that the disappearance had been something far stranger than an unsolved crime. The staircase leading to the upper floor was narrower than the grand staircase below. Its wooden handrail had been polished smooth by generations of hands, yet there was no dust upon it. Someone or something had been here long after the Ashcroft family vanished. As Elias climbed, the air became noticeably colder. His breath appeared in faint white clouds. The silence deepened until even the beating of his heart sounded distant. The upper corridor was shorter than the one below. That made no sense. From outside, the manor clearly had 3 full stories. Inside, the dimensions refused to agree with the building's appearance. Rooms seemed misplaced, windows overlooked impossible angles, and every hallway felt slightly longer or shorter than it should have been. He unfolded the floor plan copied from the original police report. According to the blueprint, there should have been 4 bedrooms. He counted 7 doors. A slow unease settled over him. The first room contained broken furniture covered in white sheets. The second appeared to have been a study, its shelves empty except for a single chess piece resting in the center of a desk. The third door refused to open. No matter how hard Elias pushed, it remained locked. Then he reached the fourth. A faded wooden plaque hung beside the frame. Nursery. The door opened effortlessly. Warm sunlight poured through lace curtains. For a brief moment, Elias forgot where he was. The room looked almost ordinary. A rocking horse stood beside the fireplace. A small bookshelf held children's stories with brightly colored covers. Tiny shoes rested neatly beneath a narrow bed. Stuffed animals sat in perfect rows as though waiting for someone to return. Everything looked untouched, not abandoned, simply paused. A framed family photograph stood on the bedside table. Edward Ashcroft, Margaret, their young son Thomas, their daughter Emily. All 4 smiled warmly beneath a clear summer sky. Elias compared it with the newspaper clipping he carried. The same photograph, except one detail had changed. There had originally been only 2 children. Now there were 3. Between Thomas and Emily stood another little girl, perhaps 5 years old. She wore a pale blue dress. No newspaper article had ever mentioned her. No police report listed a 3rd child. Yet here she stood, smiling at the camera as though she had always belonged there. Elias examined the back of the frame. Someone had written 4 names: Thomas, Clara, Emily. The unfamiliar name tightened his chest. Who was Clara? The rocking horse moved. Just once. Forward, then back. Elias stared at it. The room had no breeze. Every curtain hung perfectly still. Slowly he approached the toy. Its wooden base rocked gently before settling into silence. On the seat rested a folded piece of paper. He could have sworn it had not been there a moment earlier. He unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was unmistakably childish. Clara says the house gets hungry when people leave. Another line followed. So it keeps one forever. Elias folded the paper with trembling hands. Behind him came the soft click of the nursery door. He spun around. The door remained closed. He was certain he had left it open. He crossed the room quickly and grasped the brass handle. It would not turn. He pulled harder. Nothing. The lock had engaged from the outside. Then, from somewhere beyond the door, came the slow, unmistakable sound of footsteps. Not running, not searching, walking with calm, deliberate purpose. They stopped directly outside the nursery. Someone stood on the other side of the door, waiting. Elias held his breath. The footsteps outside the nursery did not move. Whoever or whatever stood beyond the door remained completely still. He glanced around the room, searching for another exit. There was only one window. He hurried toward it and pulled the brass latch. It refused to budge. The frame felt solid, almost as though the glass had been built into the stone itself. He struck it lightly with the handle of his flashlight. Nothing, not even the faintest vibration. The window wasn't merely locked. It wasn't a window anymore. It was part of the wall, a prison disguised as an escape. The silence outside finally broke. 3 slow knocks landed against the nursery door. Pause. Another pause. Elias swallowed hard. Who's there? No answer. Only another 3 measured knocks. He stepped back instinctively. Then, without warning, the brass handle turned. The door opened inward. The corridor beyond was empty. No footsteps, no shadow, nothing. The air outside felt warmer than the room behind him. Elias waited nearly a minute before stepping into the corridor. The moment both of his feet crossed the doorway, the nursery door slammed shut behind him. He spun around. The wooden plaque was gone. The word nursery had vanished. In its place hung a polished brass number. 12. He unfolded the floor plan again. There was no room 12 anywhere on the blueprint. As he continued down the corridor, he noticed something strange about the portraits lining the walls. One of them had changed. Earlier, every face had faded into blankness. Now one portrait showed a man clearly. He appeared to be in his late 40s, dressed in a dark Victorian coat, sharp gray eyes, a neatly trimmed beard. One hand rested upon the back of an ornate chair. The painter had captured every detail with unsettling precision. A brass plaque beneath the frame read, Edmund Blackwood, 1854 to 1901. Elias frowned. The Ashcroft family had owned Blackwater Manor since the 1930s. Who was Edmund Blackwood? He raised his camera. The flash illuminated the portrait. When he lowered the camera, the painting had changed again. The chair remained. The background remained. The man was gone. Only an empty room filled the canvas. Elias checked the photograph on his camera screen. Edmund Blackwood still stood there, staring directly into the lens. But something was different. In the photograph, another figure had appeared, standing behind Elias. Out of focus, watching him. Elias slowly turned around. The corridor was empty. He looked back at the camera. The second figure remained. Closer now. His pulse raced. He enlarged the image. The stranger wore an old black coat that reached nearly to the floor. His face remained blurred, as though the camera refused to focus on it. Yet one detail stood out with terrifying clarity. His right hand held a large iron key, the same ornate key carved into the entrance gate. A sudden gust of cold air swept through the hallway. The portraits rattled softly against the walls. One after another, every painting began to change. Faces appeared where none had existed before. Dozens of them. Men, women, children, each dressed in clothing from different centuries, each staring directly at Elias. No smiles, no anger, only quiet recognition. Then he noticed the final portrait. It hung at the end of the corridor. Fresh paint still glistened upon its surface. The man in the painting wore a dark raincoat. A leather satchel hung over one shoulder. His right hand held a camera. His expression was tense, exhausted, frightened. The portrait was unfinished. The face lacked only a few final brushstrokes. But Elias recognized himself immediately. At the bottom of the frame, where every portrait carried a name and a date, only the name had been completed. Elias Carter. The date beneath it was still blank. Somewhere deep inside Blackwater Manor, a paintbrush touched a canvas. The faint sound of a brush moving across canvas continued. Throw did not come from one direction. It drifted through the walls, beneath the floor, and somewhere above the ceiling, making it impossible to tell where the unseen artist was working. Elias forced himself to look away from the unfinished portrait. His own face, His own coat. Even the small tear on the shoulder strap of his satchel had been painted with impossible accuracy. Only the date beneath his name remained unfinished. He refused to believe coincidence had survived this long. Someone knew he was here. Someone had been expecting him. The corridor ended at a heavy oak door that had not been there when he first climbed the staircase. Its surface was carved with hundreds of names. Some were deeply engraved. Others were so faint they had nearly disappeared beneath time. Elias traced a finger across one inscription. Margaret Ashcroft. Another. Thomas Ashcroft. Clara Ashcroft. The forgotten child. Her name was here, preserved in the wood as though it had never been erased from history. Near the bottom of the door he found fresh carvings. The cuts were still pale against the dark timber. One name had only the first few letters completed. Eli. He stepped back immediately. The unfinished carving looked recent. Hours old. Perhaps less. The iron handle felt strangely warm. With a slow push, Elias opened the door. Beyond it lay a circular room unlike any other in the manor. The walls rose from floor to ceiling without a single window. Shelves covered every inch of stone. Instead of books, they held thousands of wooden boxes. Large ones, tiny ones, some polished to a deep shine, others cracked with age. Each carried a brass label bearing a single name. No dates, no descriptions, only names. Elias moved between the shelves. He passed names from different countries, different languages, different centuries. Scottish, French, Japanese, Arabic, Spanish. The collection spanned generations. Near the center of the room stood an old wooden table. Upon it rested a register far older than the visitor's book downstairs. Its leather cover had darkened almost to black. Across the front, faded gold lettering read, "The Keeper's Record." He opened it carefully. Every page listed names. Beside each name was a single sentence. Forgotten by the world. Forgotten by family. Forgotten by time. Nothing more. The handwriting remained perfectly consistent despite entries stretching back more than 200 years. The final page was blank. As Elias watched, words slowly appeared upon it. Not written, revealed, as though invisible ink had awakened. Elias Carter. Below it, another line emerged. Not yet forgotten. A quiet scrape came from behind him. He turned sharply. One of the wooden boxes had fallen from a shelf. It landed upright without breaking. The brass plate read, "Edward Ashcroft." Hands trembling, Elias lifted the lid. Inside lay no letters, no photographs, no jewelry, only a simple leather wallet. He opened it. There was an identity card. The photograph showed Edward Ashcroft exactly as he appeared in old newspaper archives. But the name printed beneath the photograph was not Edward. It was Elias Carter. His own name, his own date of birth, his own signature. Only the face belonged to another man. His mouth went dry. He searched the wallet again. A folded receipt slipped onto the floor. It was dated 3 days in the future. The location read, "The Stag and Lantern." Under the bill, a handwritten note had been added. One guest checked out. No forwarding address. A low creak echoed through the chamber. Not from the shelves. Not from the ceiling. From the far wall. The stone blocks shifted apart with slow precision, revealing a narrow passage hidden behind them. Cold air flowed from the darkness beyond. At the entrance lay a tarnished brass lantern. Its flame was already burning. No one had lit it. No footsteps approached. No figure emerged. Only a single sheet of paper rested beneath the lantern. Elias picked it up. 3 words had been written in neat black ink. "Don't learn yours." Before he could make sense of the warning, the hidden passage filled with the unmistakable sound of pages turning. Not one page. Hundreds. As if an invisible library had suddenly begun reading itself in the dark. The pages continued turning. Not in panic. Not in haste. One after another, with calm precision, as though invisible hands were searching for a particular story. Elias lifted the brass lantern. Its flame burned with a steady amber glow, casting long shadows along the narrow stone passage. The walls were rough and damp, carved directly into the bedrock beneath the manor. There was no sign that this corridor had ever appeared on the original plans. He hesitated only for a moment before stepping forward. The passage sloped gently downward. With every step, the air grew colder. The smell of old paper slowly replaced the scent of wet stone. Then the corridor opened into a chamber unlike anything he had imagined. It was a library, not the elegant room he had explored downstairs, but something far older. Massive shelves curved around the circular walls, disappearing into darkness high above. Thousands of books filled them from floor to ceiling. None bore titles. Every spine was plain black leather, marked only with a small silver number. The turning pages stopped. Silence returned. Elias approached the nearest shelf. Book 27, Book 143, Book 912. The numbers stretched into the thousands. He reached for one at random. Book 406. The cover felt warm. Inside, the first page carried only a name: Samuel Reed. Below it was a date from 1884. The next pages described Samuel's childhood, his education, the woman he married, the birth of his son, his work as a stonemason, and the final journey that had brought him to Blackwater. It wasn't a novel. It was a life. Every memory, every decision, every fear. The final sentence read, "The house remembered him after everyone else forgot." Elias closed the book slowly. His fingers had begun to tremble. He removed another volume. Book 1189. A woman named Elena Moretti, an artist from Florence, missing since 1957. Another book, sailor, teacher, doctor, people from different countries, different centuries, different languages. Every one of them had disappeared without explanation. Every one of them had reached Blackwater Manor. A terrible realization settled over him. These were not books about people. They were the people, or at least everything that remained of them. A faint scratching sound drifted across the chamber. Elias raised the lantern. At the center of the room stood a massive wooden table. Upon it rested a single black book. Unlike the others, it had no number, only a name embossed in silver: Elias Carter. His heart lurched. The book looked new. The leather was flawless. He had never seen it before. Yet he already knew what lay inside. He opened it. The first page described the morning of his birth in Edinburgh. The next recorded his childhood, his first day at school, the accident that had taken his father, his decision to become a journalist. Every detail was exact. Every memory belonged to him. He turned another page. Yesterday's journey to Blackwater. The conversation inside the inn. The journal. The nursery. The hidden chamber. Everything. Word for word. He flipped ahead. Several pages remained blank. Then writing began again. Fresh ink spread across the paper without a hand to guide it. Elias walked deeper into the library. He looked up. He was standing exactly where the sentence described. Another line appeared. He lifted the lantern higher. Almost involuntarily, his arm rose. He stopped himself halfway. A cold wave of fear washed over him. The book was not recording his actions. It was deciding them. A soft voice broke the silence. "You've reached the difficult part." Elias spun around. An elderly man stood between the shelves. He wore a dark suit that belonged to another century. His silver hair was neatly combed. His expression was calm, almost kind. "I've been waiting for you," the stranger said. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "I've had many names." His eyes drifted toward the shelves. "But the house keeps only one." He stepped into the lantern light. Elias recognized him instantly. It was the same face he had seen in the portrait. Edmund Blackwood. except the brass plaque had claimed he died in 1901. Edmund folded his hands behind his back. "No," he said quietly, as though answering a question Elias had not spoken aloud. "I never died." Behind them, Elias's book turned another page by itself. Fresh words appeared across the paper. Then the house closed every exit. The last sentence had barely settled onto the page when a deep vibration passed through the library. It was subtle at first. The shelves shivered. Dust drifted from the stone ceiling. Then came the sound of moving rock. Elias rushed toward the passage through which he had entered. The opening was gone. In its place stood an unbroken wall of granite. He swept the lantern across the chamber, searching for another exit. There wasn't one. Only shelves, book, and Edmund Blackwood. The old man regarded him with an expression that held neither triumph nor pity, only understanding. "You've discovered the first rule," Edmund said quietly. "The house never traps anyone." Elias turned sharply. "It just sealed every way out." "No." Edmund folded his hands behind his back. "It waited for you to walk far enough that you would stop looking behind you." His voice carried the calm certainty of someone repeating a fact that had long ago become ordinary. "The house doesn't imprison people. It persuades them to remain." Elias tightened his grip on the lantern. "What is this place?" Edmund looked toward the endless shelves. "A memory survives only while someone remembers it." He ran a finger across the spine of a nearby volume. "When the last person forgets your face, your voice, your name, what becomes of the life you lived?" Elias said nothing. "The world believes memory simply disappears." Edmund shook his head. "It doesn't. It comes here." The library suddenly felt even larger. Each book, each box, each carved name, not trophies, an archive. "The manor collects forgotten lives," Elias murmured. Edmund nodded. "It preserves them, against their will." At first, the answer sent a chill through Elias. He opened his own book again. Fresh words continued appearing. Elias asked questions because questions delayed fear. The sentence described the very reason he had spoken. He slammed the book shut. "Why me?" Edmund smiled faintly. "You've spent your career chasing stories everyone else abandoned. I investigate facts." "No." Edmund's eyes remained fixed on him. "You rescue forgotten things." The words struck harder than Elias expected. Every unsolved case, every abandoned village, every lost name buried beneath old newspaper clippings. He had always believed he was searching for truth. Perhaps something else had been searching for him. A low bell rang somewhere inside the manor. One slow note, another, then silence. Edmund's expression changed for the first time. "He has begun." "Who?" "The painter." The title lingered in the air. Elias remembered the unfinished portrait upstairs. The brush, the blank date. "The portraits," he whispered. Edmund nodded. "When someone arrives, the painter begins. And when the portrait is finished." Edmund did not answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward one of the highest shelves and carefully removed an old leather volume. He handed it to Elias. The cover bore a familiar name, Margaret Ashcroft. "This isn't her journal," Elias said. "No." Edmund looked at him steadily. "This is everything she ever remembered." Elias opened the book. He expected words. Instead, memories flooded his mind. A summer afternoon beside Blackwater Lake. Margaret laughing while two children chased butterflies across the garden. A third little girl in a pale blue dress running ahead of them. Clara, the forgotten child. The memory vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. Elias staggered backward. "She existed," he breathed. "Yes. So why did no one remember her?" Edmund's face darkened. "Because the house accepted her." The lantern flame flickered violently. For the first time since Elias had entered the hidden library, darkness gathered between the shelves. Not ordinary darkness. moved, slowly, purposefully, like ink spreading across water. Edmund stepped back. He comes only when a story nears its end. The black shape drifted closer, possessed no face, no visible body, only the outline of someone carrying a long-handled brush. The air filled with the faint scent of fresh oil paint. The unseen figure stopped several yards away. Its brush rose into the air. Invisible strokes painted across nothing Elias could see. Then Edmund spoke with unusual urgency. "Listen carefully. You still have one chance to leave." "How?" Edmund met his eyes. "You must surrender the only thing the house truly wants." "And what's that?" Before Edmund could answer, Elias felt a sharp pain inside his head. A memory slipped away. Not blurred. He could still remember his father's face. He could remember his first newspaper assignment. But one simple fact had vanished completely. No matter how hard he searched, he could no longer remember why he had come to Blackwater Manor in the first place. The painter lowered its brush. Somewhere above them, a fresh date was being written beneath a portrait. Elias stood motionless. He knew his name. He remembered his childhood, his career, the streets of Edinburgh, even the taste of the coffee he had drunk that morning. But the purpose that had brought him to Blackwater Manor had vanished completely. It was as though someone had torn a single chapter from the book of his life. Edmund Blackwood watched him with quiet sorrow. "It has begun," he said. "The house never steals everything at once. It removes only enough to make you stay a little longer." Elias looked down at his own book. The newest page contained only one sentence. He could no longer remember why he had come. Below it, fresh ink gathered into another line. Soon he would stop trying. Elias snapped the book shut. "No." The word echoed through his own mind with unexpected strength. "No one writes the ending of my life." Edmund stepped closer. "You asked how to leave." Elias nodded. "You must give the house something it cannot preserve." "What?" "The truth." Elias frowned. "I don't understand." "The house feeds on memories because memories change. They fade. They become uncertain. But truth..." Edmund looked toward the endless shelves. "Truth cannot be rewritten." For the first time since entering Blackwater Manor, Elias understood. The house did not collect people. It collected forgotten versions of them. The stories no one remained alive to tell. He reached into his satchel. Inside were everything he had gathered. Margaret Ashcroft's journal, his notebook, the faded photograph, the visitor's register, every piece of evidence. His eyes settled on his notebook. Unlike the strange books surrounding him, it contained words he had written himself. Observations. No invisible ink. No impossible changes. Only the truth as he had witnessed it. He tore out every page and scattered them across the stone floor. Edmund looked at him with sudden understanding. "What are you doing? If this place survives by keeping stories hidden..." Elias struck a match. "Then someone has to tell them." The burning paper landed among the scattered pages. Flames spread quickly. Not ordinary flames. The fire burned bright white, filling the chamber with fierce light. For the first time, the endless shelves trembled. Books fell. Wooden boxes burst open. Thousands of loose pages swirled into the air like a storm of forgotten lives. The painter stepped forward. Its brush slashed across the darkness. The unfinished portrait of Elias appeared above the fire. Only one stroke remained. One final line beneath the date. The brush descended. Elias seized the lantern and hurled it directly into the floating canvas. Glass shattered. The flame exploded across the painting. The portrait burned instantly. The blank date blackened before it could be completed. A deep crack thundered through the manor. The walls shook violently. Shelves collapsed. Stone split apart. The library was coming undone. Voices filled the chamber. Not cries. Not screams. Simple names. Thousands of names. Spoken once. Clear. each remembered: Margaret Ashcroft, Samuel Reed, Elena Moretti, Clara Ashcroft. Names that had waited decades, some centuries, to be spoken again. The darkness surrounding the painter began to dissolve. Its outline fractured like smoke caught in strong wind. The brush slipped from its hand and struck the floor, where it turned instantly to dust. Edmund remained standing. For the first time he smiled. A genuine smile. "It ends," he whispered. "No," Elias replied. "It begins." Edmund's figure slowly faded into the bright air. "So long as someone remembers." His voice disappeared before the sentence was finished. Elias awoke beside Blackwater Lake beneath the pale light of dawn. The manor was gone. Only an empty meadow stretched beyond the shoreline. No foundations, no broken stone, nothing. As though the house had never existed. Rescue workers found him hours later, wandering the old bridge with soot covering his hands and a leather satchel clutched against his chest. Inside was only one notebook. Every page remained intact. Every fact he had written was still there. No one believed his story. Officials concluded that Blackwater Manor had collapsed decades earlier. There was no record of Edmund Blackwood. No record of Clara Ashcroft. No underground library. Nothing. 6 months later, Elias published a book. He titled it, The House Beyond Blackwater Lake. Critics called it brilliant fiction. Readers praised its atmosphere. Most assumed he had invented every page. Only one person wrote to him with a different opinion. The letter arrived without a return address. Inside was a single sheet of aged paper. Written in careful black ink were 8 words. "Thank you for remembering the names we could not." There was no signature, only a pressed white flower. The moment Elias touched it, the petals quietly crumbled into ash. He looked toward the rain outside his window. For a long time he said nothing. Then he opened a fresh notebook. Some stories are written to entertain. Others are written so the world never forgets. And somewhere beyond every map, where forgotten roads disappear into mist, there may still be a place waiting for those whose names have almost been lost. Thank you for listening to STORIQ. If you enjoyed this audiobook, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Share this journey with fellow book lovers, and until next time, keep listening, keep imagining. Goodbye.